Oh, there it is. And we're live. And so watch this. I'm about to go live on Instagram too for no apparent reason. What's up, everybody? It's Sunday Night Teacher Talk, like usual, not always. But you're gonna start barking now, aren't you? You had to wait. Like you were asleep. He was asleep with his head under the couch, and now, dude,
this is choice.
What's he doing? So I'm doing something different tonight. Doing Sunday Night Teacher Talk like usual on YouTube. I was supposed to have a guest on with me tonight. That did not work out, unfortunately. And so the not so secret wife, nice drop in there.
No, he put a ball under my butt.
That sounded weird. And so she is going to be my special guest on this evening. And I'm doing this live on Instagram also because I don't usually do this on Instagram. So now I have a lot of different places to look. So that's a thing.
Well, and you talk about not multitasking.
I don't multitask well.
Really in trouble tonight.
I don't. At swim team meets this week, I had to do. I had to multitask, and I had to make some stuff up. I think while I was going. So yeah, this is weird to do this on two different platforms, but let's just go with it. So we're all gross and grimy because we went to the gym together this evening. That's one of our new things, is like going to the gym together because it's way more fun to go to the gym with someone.
Because we like to do everything together.
Well, you like to go everywhere that I go and do everything I do. So that's like a thing. So, Mr. Matera, what's up, man? Imir, Tracy Pinter's on there.
Where do you see Mr. Matera?
Tracy Pinter knows members of Pearl Jam. If I told you that? 17
about 1,000 times.
I was going to say 17 times, but all right. Kyle's on there. So Lauren Love is saying that she can't multitask either, and I'm terrible at that. Senior S, what's going on, man? Meeting friends for dinner at Universal CityWalk. Nice. That's actually a pretty great place to go. You look at this one. I'll look at this one. My girl Reese is on here. Woodland teacher, or creature teacher. Woodland creature. That is right. Creature teacher. Hey, you did make it on time. So as I'm just like waiting for people to kind of jump on here. Tonight, let's go ahead. So the idea here, for folks that are on Instagram, because I never have this on Instagram, is what I do is a live feed every Sunday night to kind of try and help folks with their stuff, getting ready for Monday morning, right? The idea was to just help people out as much as possible and to try and be a resource that I wish existed when I started doing this stuff. So, and when I started teaching, none of this stuff existed. There was books that you could read, but that was such an investment. And if you were looking for the answer for one question, to have someone be able to direct you a little bit would have just been really helpful. But so that's what we're doing here tonight. So, one of the things I think is really funny is that I feel like you've learned how to answer things. You could answer so many, not all of them maybe, but a lot of questions.
I could, yeah.
Where sometimes if I get a question email, I'm what do you think I would say to that? And then I'm always impressed.
My hair is messy. I'm sorry.
Look at my hair. Look at my hat. It's grimy. I
Dirty.
sweat. I know I sweat. Good thing this isn't. You can't smell
Someone
anything.
said I was streaming early this week.
No, 5 p.m. Right? We're on time. So if you have a question, if you're wondering about something, let me know. And I'm also wondering, is anyone, what are you doing to get ready to go back? So look.
Or did anyone start yet?
People have probably started already. And the people that have not started do not want to talk about it.
I think I saw some people say.
But you're on here, so maybe you do. What's that?
Some people start tomorrow, Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, snap. So I made a video I put up this week about what does it look like for on my very first day back to school. And so I made that video and I got a really great response to it. But I'm wondering, what does it look like you're prepping to go back to school? What did Mr. Matera say? What are you going to do the first day back? Well, actually, I made a whole video about that. That's fairly interesting. My whole take, right, to break it down is I'm not interested in rules or procedures, and I'm not saying those are a bad thing. One of my overwhelming themes, I think, on YouTube is there's 100 different ways to do the same thing, right? Like everyone, it depends on your personality and who you are and being authentic instead of trying to be something that you're not. Me authentically is like talking about how excited I am for the year and not so much what I'm nervous about, or like trying to give out a bunch of rules or regulations or a syllabus or something like that. I just like getting kids excited about it because, you know, I teach at all boys school, especially. Nobody friggin' wants to come back the first day of school. They're just like not having it. Hey, thanks for keeping and looking at the questions there while I'm not really paying attention. What's that?
My lovely middle. What's it like being a spouse to a teacher?
What's it like? Don't say anything bad either.
Mildly annoying. I mean, in all honesty,
is that just your answer for being a spouse?
No. I love being a spouse. I would say, in all honesty, it's just never done. The job is never done.
Nope.
And when you're married to someone like CJ, who like really, really, really loves his kids, it's, you know, it comes home with them at night sometimes, and that's the hardest part. Is like what? What comes home with me? Like,
well, how could that affect our evening?
I think
that's a good point.
When you've had like kids not listening all day and really stressful with kids, like behavior wise, I think that comes home and it drains you so much. I think it's hard to then be patient for our own kids, and that's a really difficult point. And then there's just always something to do on the weekends. That job comes home with you. I think like no other. Teaching comes home with you on the weekend. So you have to prepare for the week as much as, even though you try not to, and I don't think that you do a really good job at that. Now, not so much
you're right.
In the first few years of teaching, but I think that it still comes home with you, and you still have to like do stuff to prepare for your week.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest
Even
part.
if
I don't think other jobs do that. Like, you don't bring home as much.
I think so. It used to be I had to do a bunch of stuff to get ready for the week. I think now it's more like thinking about, like I have to like envision my week. Like I have to play it out in my head.
Yeah, but regardless, it takes time away from.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. Like, but you're right. Like it's. Yeah. And so even though I've gotten away from planning, I'm still in kind of that. Like I'm in that aspect of it. So there's a ton of stuff up here.
And I can't.
Dude, I can't
look at everything.
We need another person. Put the dog in charge of it. The dog is sitting right under our feet right now,
really
trying to hand us
me
toys.
To throw his favorite toy. No, I'm gonna do my job, and
you're gonna do your job, and then I'll let you know when you're. You let me know when there's a question.
So everyone can see, this is what I really look like on the side the whole time.
Jasmine Hill saying totally fangirling, but caffeinated classroom is in the chat. Yeah. I'm going. So I'm going to try this guy's name again. Bro, I got your name last time. I think I can do it again. Are you going in order?
Wow.
You do a good job when you go in order.
I like to go in order.
All right. You go ahead and go in order. What's the question? Senior S, Spanish Spot is saying, how long until school starts in West Philly? He starts like a week out from Labor Day, but school doesn't start for us until after Labor Day. So like, I don't know what that is. First week, second week of September, something like that.
Yeah, it's like the 8th usually.
Yeah,
this year, our kids go back. Our own personal children, I think they go back like the 4th, a little bit earlier.
Yeah, which means I might get like a day or two.
Which means you're going to lose your personal time at the end of the year that you usually have. Like, you're off earlier than our kids are, and you'll lose that this year. Where
I usually go do things that I want to do that no one else is interested in doing, like going to what do I do? Like I went to like not Mark Twain's house. I do want to go there. Like, I just go do fun stuff that no one else wants to do when they're with me. So, what do you got?
Oh, sorry. I was talking. See what happens when I am on here?
Multitasking, dude. It's terrible. You may just
pick one. Look on Instagram.
Okay. I'll look on Instagram. Sorry, this is new.
We're just flying.
Figuring out. All these people are waving at us on Instagram. how many years have you been teaching? Have you always taught high school? So I've been teaching, this will be my 13th year. I have always taught high school, and that was a conscious decision. Like I student taught 11th grade, and I loved it because it's like higher level conversations, and like teaching honors kids was like really wonderful. But my jam has really become teaching 9th grade and teaching the most struggling students that are coming into high school. And I think the reason for that for me is when I taught I used to teach in Camden, New Jersey, and a large part of the population that came to the school were kids that spoke English as a second language. And if somebody could not speak or read English freshman year, I felt like I could do something with that. If someone was graduating, or if I got them senior year and they couldn't speak or read English, it was like, I'm not saying you couldn't do anything to help, but the window was so much smaller. And my jam has always been, just because you're my student freshman year doesn't mean that like at the end of freshman year, you just go away. I'm going to keep following up with you, and I want to keep being a resource for you. So that was why I wanted 9th grade more than anything. But I could honestly see myself teaching anything. Like part of me loves elementary school, and I think it would be really great. So that would be cool. Is your mom on there?
She is. I just saw it.
All the way from New Mexico. Clovis, New Mexico. That's my mother-in-law. We call her Sylv. I call her Sylv. I don't think anybody else does. CCT is saying, do you ever help him set up his classroom? Why don't you tell that story?
What story?
Well,
You're the storyteller.
So, all right, you're right. But no, you tell good stories.
I don't.
I just have to correct you.
We take the kids in, and they help. And Bruce to like wash all the desks for Dad. It was very cute. I help a little bit in like just when there's new stuff or coming up with ideas or creative thinking during the summer.
What's one of the things that so answer 2 questions for me. One, what's one of the things that we argue about every year that you try to tell me to do something and I go, dude, you can't do it? Because
I always just look at things in a design perspective for a room. And my suggestions always end up, I always suggest to put things like balanced, like even on a wall, like with enough space at the top and the bottom. And that always ends up interfering because he's like, no, I can't put them down below because kids are going to touch them.
Everything in my room is above, pretty much everything in my room, if you look at any of my videos, is above backpack destruction level, right? So if somebody starts play fighting and their backpack hits the wall, it messes up your poster, it messes up your bulletin board. I think all bulletin boards in hallways should be above backpack level. So they should be at least shoulder level with most students, because otherwise it just gets destroyed.
And I agree, because when I go into your hallways in school, like in the middle of the school here, everything that's backpack level is like all ripped or missing pieces.
Awesome bulletin board I did last year. And there was a fight that day, and someone threw somebody else into my bulletin board, and my dinosaur got a big dent in it. And it was like, come on, dude.
Someone said, here, I'm not good with names either. Runs in the family, I think.
I'll put me on blast. It's Israel Garcia. That's easy to say. What are you doing to prepare for the new school year? So I have a bunch of ideas this year. I'm teaching new books. So I think I'm teaching Othello this year instead of Merchant of Venice. And I think I'm teaching Speak this year instead of Fahrenheit 451. I love Fahrenheit 451, but I just can't, even though I sell it with all my heart, the students just don't really like it. So I think that might get pushed to honors classes or 10th grade, and then I'm going to read Speak, because I think that is really relevant right now. Being at an all-boys school, I really like having the idea of having like a female protagonist in a book, and it's about rape culture in the United States. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff in there to, I think, intrigue the kids while we're reading and stuff. So, what am I thinking of? And then I have some new like room ideas, like stuff I want to do in my room this year. And which I don't even remember what those were. I have like new quotes I'm putting on the wall. And then I don't know. Then we usually go last year we started going to flea markets, and which in the US, like if you're not in the US, flea market, I don't know if they use the same term. It's like an outdoor market that
antique shopping.
Yeah, people sell their old crap at. And so last year we went and found all kinds of fun stuff. And you just start looking at weird things and thinking like, oh, that would be really fun in the classroom, or that would be really cool in the classroom. And then I bought a stuffed rat at IKEA just because I think it's going to come in handy for some jokes.
That our daughter now sleeps with.
Our daughter sleeps with a stuffed rat. I want to say it's cute, not really cute. And then more than anything, I think I'm trying to get my head in the best place possible. So something I've not talked about is I signed up for a triathlon in New Jersey, in Wildwood, New Jersey at the end of August. I have not ridden a bike since I got a driver's license, and I can only swim to save my life. But I've been training every morning. Dude, you're supposed to look like you're backing me.
Oh, I 100% back you. I just laugh at like how you preface it like with I haven't ridden a bike and I haven't swam.
I haven't. You live in New Jersey. The only reason you ride a bike after you're 18 is because you have a DUI. So right, real rap. So we do, I'm doing this triathlon. So I've been like exercising a lot, like getting up early in the morning at 5:30 and going swimming and going bike riding and stuff like that. So it's been a lot, and I think that's going to help me more than anything else starting the school year. Jasmine Hill is asking, I'm a new teacher, so I'm developing lesson plans. How do you learn to pace your units? One of my favorite things that Seth Godin talks about is a ship date. And so I have a ship date for all of my lessons. All lessons cannot last longer than 5 weeks, no matter what. And so the way that I break that down is, and I learned this from my great friend, Randy Rebai, who has a new book out, which is awesome. You should check it out on Amazon. And
what's it called?
See, I couldn't remember off the top of my head because I can't multitask. After the shop drops. Dude, awesome. Your kids will love it. So actually, I feel like I want to give one of those away, but not this second. I am, before we're done here. I'm going to figure something out. Think of a way that we can give them away. What was I talking about? Dude, what is wrong with me? Seriously, I'm getting older and I can't remember things. Oh, so real quick, how I plan lessons. I take a calendar and just print them out from the internet, and then I write on the calendar all the days that we have like a speaker or an event at school or a holiday or days off for something or election day or whatever. So I can see what days I cannot teach on. And then I just take my 5-week lesson plan and I start figuring out like how many pages do I want to read a day, and then where are those going to fall? When am I going to do vocab words? So I introduce vocab words every single Monday. Monday we do a journal entry, and then we read mainly that day. Tuesday I introduce some new topic or point of instruction, something I want to learn that week. And then Wednesday's independent reading day. Thursday we go over whatever we did on Tuesday and figure out how that fits into the book. And then Friday there's like a short quiz on whatever we learned on Tuesday and on the vocab words. And so that's pretty much like how my week runs out. And then I just make sure that I can finish the like the way that I do it. Woodland Creature Teacher, which is one of my favorite names, and I say that all the time, but is saying many questions. My question. She has, it looks like one, but anyway, what should my sub do while I'm away? That's a good question. I usually start the year with a lot of team building, but I can't miss that. I'm stuck with how to start. So first of all, what grade do you teach? Because that would help also. I feel like subs that have elementary school teachers, like maybe if you teach elementary, you could like shout out in the comment section and like let people know like what is something that you're doing on like when your kids are like when you are out and you have to have a sub, right? Because I feel like that's a much bigger undertaking. For senior or for my guys, for freshmen, I usually just have them either read their independent reading books or I leave a really, really easy self-explanatory assignment that they're reading whatever book we're reading in class, and then they are working on like comprehension questions or some kind of like annotating skill or something like that, like summary and annotation skill. I don't ever want anyone to have to teach my students that are in high school. I don't ever want them to have to discipline or do more. I want them to just be a presence in the room, and I want my boys to get work done, and that's it. And so I make it super simple, but I also am not, I don't like being out very much, so it's tricky. Kimberly Wallback is saying, what do you think about Pinterest for classroom ideas? Dude, I take tons of stuff from Pinterest. I have a Real Rap with Reynolds, not very well thought out Pinterest account that you can find in any of my videos. It's in the links for all of them and probably right on the top of the channel. So but I think one of the things, I think this is interesting, Kimberly. Let me talk about this for a second. I think it's interesting to look at other people's classrooms. Something I like looking at even more though is creative spaces that people use. So some of my all-time favorites are like Casey Neistat's studio, Oliver Jeffers' studio, who is a children's book author, Mac Primo's like creative space that he has in Brooklyn.
Who's the really pretty one with like rainbow, like?
Oh, Happy Day?
No. Is it on here? Is it like on the computer, like as your screen?
Oh, I don't even know who that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Who else? Adam Savage, who used to be on Mythbusters. Like, so here's what I try and do. My room does not have to be educational. I've gotten away from that a long time ago. I don't want rules on my wall at all. And some schools need that and some teachers need that, especially if they're younger. But like, I don't feel like I need it. I don't have anything on my wall that tells you what a noun is or has commonly misspelled words. My school gave me a bunch of posters for that last year. I didn't like the way that they looked, so I didn't put them up. And I want kids to come in and feel welcome. I want them to feel like when you walk into and this is, Vivette said this the other week on the teacher talk that we did about kids in prison. I want someone to walk into my room and feel like the way I want them to walk into my living room and feel, which is at home, comfortable, and like they can get to work and do stuff, and it's like a place they want to be. And that's what I love. So I love weird stuff. Like if I could afford it, I would have super weird stuff in my room. Like I would have a loft in my room,
so
like a deck and a tree
Amanda
house.
Teaches says that Pinterest is awesome, but kind of unrealistic, to be honest. Pinterest classrooms are usually very expensive. I'm trying to create a Pinterest classroom this year cheaply, though. I think that that's true. I think you can learn to do it on the cheap. So the only thing that I can equate this to is birthday parties. I love birthday parties. I love, like, there's some crazy stuff online when you Google like whatever your theme is, because I always do a theme, and whatever the theme is, there's crazy stuff. But what I've really learned to do, because I'm not rich and I don't have like an endless budget.
We're rich in love.
We are for sure. This is what I deal with all the time, just to let you all know. But so what I do is I pick, like, there's certain things, like you pick things that are big, you know, not necessarily expensive, but that take up a lot of space. Or when you're designing something, don't like try and take your few things and spread them all out, like make them clearer, like, and like pick a concentrated area. And I do that for birthday parties and things like that for designing. I think you can get away with making a Pinterest style room. And I would imagine for teachers, it's something that you have to build on every year. It's not something that just comes your first year, unless you just have a lot of money. And that's cool too. But
so that's an interesting point, because I think that though, like going to like a Lakeshore Learning or something like that, one, for high school teachers, they don't have anything in there for us. And so that's,
it was awful. Do you remember the first time that when you got your first classroom and we like went to Lakeshore Learning and tried to look, we were like,
dude, right? We were like, oh, go in the teacher store, we're gonna buy some stuff.
Here.
And it was like, there's a bunch of crayons with arms and legs running, and it was
or
like,
apples.
It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that's been really great, and I say we because we work on this stuff together, like, it's been cool to do like I like the idea of making something from nothing. I like the idea of like we always say we dream on a budget. But being able to figure out cool things to make or do or have in your classroom that are on the cheap is super fun to me, and I enjoy that. And so my room now, I really have benefited from not having to move very much stuff around in my classroom. What's that?
Senior S says, my biggest tip for designing a classroom on the cheap is making your own stuff. It's easy to find paid resources online, such as TPT. But it's just cheaper to make things yourself. Yeah. I agree. And that's what I do for, like, I take an idea and I think, how can I do that? And how can I make it my own? And I'm talking about birthday parties, not school.
I think if I had the wherewithal to make it happen, I think the multi-million-dollar company we could create is a teacher store for high school.
Oh,
from
for
middle school to high school, or to just a different demographic of teachers.
Yes.
Rup or Roop Sarkar. Sorry, if you watch this, you know that I'm terrible with names. Will you have a teaching assistant this year? This looks like a couple things. That's a good question. Every year, one of my favorite things that we started doing at my school, my principal came up before he was even the principal, had this idea when he was a teacher to have certain students apply to be your teaching assistant. So instead of going to study hall, I might have someone come in, and I have McDonald's applications from the Philippines, which is interesting. And I have them fill it out. And then I have a coloring page on the back, and they have to fill out the coloring page. And the idea there is I want to just see, like, how neat do you write? How serious do you take this? When you hand it back in, is it all crumpled up and looks like crap, like it was in your pocket and went through the wash? Or does it look nice? How did you do the coloring thing in the back? Did it look nice? Did you, like, what did that look like? What's your attention to detail look like? And then the students become our teaching assistants. And I like that because it gives me someone that, like, if I forgot copies, if I ran out of something, if I need staples, if I need something stapled, if I need something. St. Joe's University here in Philadelphia, and I have teachers that come in or they're students in college to be teachers that come in and help me once or twice a week and, like, watch how I teach. They help me out with stuff. They do small groups and stuff like that. So that's what teaching assistants kind of look like. And then I got my man Stu in there. Stu's like a para, and he comes in to several classes a day, and he's my homie. Jacob Compton is saying, hey folks, I'm a recent graduate hoping to find my first English teaching position. Although I have no clue whether or not I'll have the job this year, what are some of the ways to begin to prepare? Jacob, I would say, what are some ways that I would prepare for English teaching position? I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think of, like, some great practical.
The dog farted. He's sitting right down there, and it smells terrible. Sorry.
Sure, it was the dog.
Oh, yeah. Unless it was you.
No. Dog farts are just. We're making YouTube gold right now. So Jacob, I would say, one, even though you just got out of college and are tired of doing this, I would read an interview with him not quite a year ago that you can find on my YouTube channel also, and he's fascinating, and he's like the greatest teacher I've ever seen in my life. And so if you just Google Rafe Esquith, you'll find all kinds of great stuff about him. And so then I would say I would start looking at, first of all, I put myself in close proximity to young people, whatever the grade is you're hoping to teach, as often as possible. Maybe you're an assistant coach on a basketball team, or you help out, like, at your church running, like, the kids program. And those aren't going to necessarily teach you, like, teaching skills, but it just gets you used to, like, being around young people. And then I would actually reach out to some teachers that you either liked growing up, or people that you, like, start finding yourself around other professionals. Maybe you can volunteer at a high school. Maybe, like, I've had folks from college, like, email me, and they have come in like every so often. Maybe it's a one-time thing, maybe it's a multiple time thing, where they just come in and they, like, help out in school They help me organize stuff. They go on class trip with us, whatever. But what they're trying to do is like be around that teaching community and just start picking stuff up and just getting used to being around students. That's the biggest missing component in college, is that you're like learning to swim by sitting in a classroom and not by getting in the water. And I think that the more you can do that, the better off you are. CCT is also asking, can you give an update on the Will Smith video? So here's my take on Will Smith. I have a second leg to my effort here, right? So for those of you that don't know, Will Smith, who's one from West Philadelphia, born and raised. And so I want him to come and speak at my school. But since I made a video said like asking Will Smith to come to my school, and I put it out on social trying to get people to help me to get Will Smith at my school, Will Smith has been, because I follow him on Instagram because I want to know what he's up to, so I know when to make my next move. He was like shooting a music video, and then he was making a movie, I think, and then he like sang or performed at the World Cup and in Russia, I think, or something like that. So like he's been like doing crazy big stuff, and I'm just like, I just want to see on his Instagram that he's just chilling at home, and then it's like,
I think he is now. His last post was him and his daughter, I believe.
I think I thought they went to like France or something, and they were like all shopping there. Or something.
I mean, he's famous. Like maybe they just go to France real fast.
Sometimes we go to Old Navy together. Target.
World travelers we are.
I don't know what that was, but
yeah. So I think he's like chilling now. But we also need more people to like, I think it takes a lot, like a ton of attention. And so I think we just need more people to either DM on Instagram. He does not have a Twitter. So Twitter is not.
That makes it difficult.
It does make it difficult. I mean, his wife has a Twitter and his kids, but
we have some
Smith's
ideas.
Main thing is Instagram. So I think just reposting or posting a picture, it needs to be individual posts. It can't be.
So I have another
on
idea too, where I think maybe people will have an opinion on this. I think we ask folks.
Cyber stalking Will Smith.
It's all in there. Here's the proof right here, right? I think getting a whole bunch of people to comment in his comment section like immediately after a video comes out and just tagging my same video could work also. So I do have some moves. So I'm going to let everyone know when that happens. I just don't want to talk about it all the time because I feel like I'm going to start annoying people.
Oh, sorry. I was supposed to go for another
great.
one. There you go.
All right. Israel Garcia is asking, how much freedom do you have in your curriculum? I have ultimate freedom. One of the perks of teaching not only inner city, but teaching. So I teach in like, I don't know where you're from, but I teach in like inner city Philadelphia, like in a difficult spot in Philadelphia. I'm glad my nose doesn't really work anymore because I can't smell the dog. You get away with a lot. And so the other thing is since I'm teaching at the school that I teach at, we are given a lot of autonomy. So that's like pretty much all the rules, all the curriculum. I can teach almost anything I want as long as it gets approved, right? So I just have to run it by my department head, and she's really great, and she's like gets excited about what you're doing and just wants what's best for the kids. And I think that is like the number one thing you could ask from a department head. So she goes along with all of my ideas. She approves conferences that I want to go to all the time on my reading list. I mean, she ordered me a fake knife and a fake beard so we could act out parts of the play next year. And she was just like, so I remember sending it to her and I thought like, I don't know how this is going to go. And then I got to school one day and I was like, open up some boxes over the summer. And I was like, oh, it's my beards and my knife. Like, how great are you that you like will buy that kind of crap for me? So I can do pretty much anything that I want. And in terms of independent reading books, I get money every year. That's pretty much the only thing I get money for every year. And then to add to my library, because we don't have a school library, I order anything that I want. I don't even have to get that like okayed. It's like if some book on John Gotti or NWA or Dr. Dre or marine biology, anything I want to order, I just order and they okay it. Princess V is saying, have you or will you take any professional development courses this summer? If you have, please share what you've learned to help in the classroom. So I went to the Ed by Ed conference, which was somewhere in Manhattan. And then I went to the Hip Hop Ed conference, which was in Brooklyn, at Columbia University. I also spoke at the ISTE conference, which was a tech conference. And then I'm going to another conference. If anyone's around, I'm going to this conference. It's got to be the only one. So I don't know what it's called, but it's at Princeton University somewhere around like April 3rd or something like that. It's a 2-day conference. And I'll be at that. And then my friend Alex Kajitani is speaking at a conference at some time in August. And I'm going to go to that also and like sell books for him, I think, again. So I have done a lot. I'm going to make a whole video out of that though, because I've learned so much stuff and I have just a lot of like fun, like websites and resources for teachers that should come out. I'm hoping in the next week and a half, because people are getting ready to go back to school and I want folks to have that resource. But it's tons and tons of cool stuff that I've been learning about this summer. So, and teacher conferences are new for me. I didn't really appreciate them or like was ever interested in, like I didn't go to a conference ever. And now I am like slightly addicted, partially because I always want to speak at them and I want to make connections. But I just love meeting people. The only people that go to conferences, I feel like in the summer, are folks that are stoked about teaching. And the more I can be around people that are excited about teaching, the more I just want to be around people that are teaching. Cindy Marrow? Narrow?
This. Lots of
Cindy
vowels.
said, my question, a big struggle for me as a science teacher is finding ways to keep the kids moving instead of lecturing. How do you keep the kids up and moving and entertained? I think, how would I answer that?
Oh, don't put me on the spot for that one. I don't know.
First of all, I break class up into tiny intervals, right? Or manageable intervals. Like, here's an activity. I just thought you heard me say this before.
Yeah.
This activity is 3 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 or 20 or 30, whatever it is. The kids see the end point. They know, all right, it's 12 o'clock now. We have 5 minutes to do this. We have till 12:05. Or, yo, hurry up. We only have 2 minutes left. We had 15 minutes to do this. It gives them an out, right? It gives them an end point. And I like that. On my board, I have written all the things and tips. Sometimes I even write how much time those activities will take. So that is something that I do also so that they can see what's coming up next. And I just think that that makes kids feel better. I think.
I will say I know one thing that you do. When you, when it's particularly like not fun day, I think you're like, so say you have like a lecture that you have to do for students. There's no way of getting around it. It's just a lecture. I think you prep them and preface it by telling them like, look, it's kind of boring, but you got to just grind through it and like that, you know, you feel
like this is
the rest of your
a thing. Like we have to take notes today and I can't make it any, like a whole lot more fun. But sometimes I can, like, I'll do like, end of the class party, like break for a second and listen to this sweet jam. Like last year I made a video about this, I think, where I put on Careless Whisper by George Michael. And for some reason, all these kids knew that song and they all started singing it in class. And we just had like this 3-minute moment of singing Careless Whisper, and then we got back into the notes. And so I think sometimes just breaking things up just helps. And then I like just being silly or doing stuff or like stopping class and being like, let me just stop for a story about nothing. I'm going to tell you about my dog and I and how we love each other or something like that. So I think that helps. And that doesn't sound super teachery and folks get annoyed when I make these videos. I've gotten some comments before where people are like, this isn't educational, but doesn't always have to be educational. What you're doing is you're building in like some cheat time almost so that you can get more done in the time that you like actually when you really, really need them to work.
There's a question on Instagram. I can't go back and find it.
From Sarah? Oh, I already answered that question.
Oh.
Talk about something.
I don't know what.
How far out do I plan? Glittery Autism Teacher. That's a great name. I plan. I know my whole year in the beginning of the year. I plan by the trimester. So we have trimesters. So like I plan that whole thing out, and then I know, like, so there's no surprises. But then I also am notorious for planning on the way to school. So that like 25, 30-minute drive that I have to school, depending on traffic, I might get inspired by a podcast I'm listening to, or a song that I'm listening to, or a movie that I saw last night, or a commercial, or somebody new that I've been reading about, or a conversation that we had that morning. And I might just flip the whole script, which I do a lot, like at least twice a week, where I'm just like inspired by something.
Well, you know, one of the interesting things that we were talking about the other morning over coffee was that this question always comes to you, it seems like, in every live feed that we do, or a lot, like, what do you do to prepare for the next school year? And I always find it really interesting that you don't do like a ton of like teacher preparation, but you're constantly listening to a podcast, like diving into something interesting, books, like you do a lot of self-care kind of stuff. And I think that digs up a lot of questions or ideas or thoughts, and you pull a lot of lessons, you connect them to your lessons and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like the stuff that you do on the regular, that's not necessarily like, it's not teachery all the time, but yet you still find a use for them. That's always really interesting.
I think it was interesting you brought up, and I don't know that I think I probably knew this about myself, but I never like stood back and like I never named it, was you were saying how I watch, when people ask like, what books am I reading this summer? Like, I think the question is around like teaching, like what teacher books are you reading this summer?
Yeah.
And I find that I can read, and you pointed this out, like I'll read books about 10 different things that have zero seemingly to do with teaching.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
what I'm
pull
saying.
lessons
That's
out.
what I'm saying. That's
Or
what I'm
so
trying to
I've been
say.
reading, and this was, so I listened to a Tim Ferriss podcast a while ago, and Terry Crews was on, the actor, whom I've zero, like up until then, I couldn't tell you one movie that guy was in, or a commercial, or any, didn't know anything about him. And I thought he was so fascinating that I bought his book, and then my students were really stoked about the book. But so I've been reading his book this summer, is one of the things I've been reading, and it's been really interesting too. Like I've gotten a lot of ideas for like lessons for school out of reading that book, which is not a book about being a teacher.
That's a good question.
Jane Register is saying, how can a student prepare for a new school year with their teachers, particularly teachers that don't seem to care? So, wow, Jane,
that's a tough one.
Do I want to talk about, I'm not going to name this situation, but let's go around it like this, right? Oh, man, I'm trying to figure out, what I want to talk about?
I think I do. But just go for it.
All right.
Do you want to whisper it?
I don't want to put anyone on blast, is what I'm trying not to do. What I've noticed in the past, though, is that I have been in contact with a lot of uninspired teachers, right? Just through dealing with this, right? With YouTube and Instagram and all that, I see a lot of uninspired teachers. People that are like mailing it in, that aren't excited. And it is so difficult for me to watch, because I just think like, why are you doing the job if you don't like it, right? And that's not for me to judge. There could be legitimate reasons. Maybe they're sick, maybe they're tired, maybe their school is like crushed their joy. I think positivity, and this sounds woo-woo and hippy-dippy, but like,
you always use that.
I know, because talking like this, throws people off sometimes. I really think that positivity breeds positivity. I think if you as a student go into a class and are excited every day, that teacher has no, like, you can't expect them to, like, you go in and you're super pumped for class, you read the book, you're ready to go. That teacher might not be won over right away, maybe not even in the first 6 months, right? But like eventually kids are the same way. Like if I'm stoked to be in school, I can wear down almost any kid eventually to like be somewhat excited, to hate my class at least less than they hate all the other classes. And so I think that's what you do. You get your mindset on, you envision what you want that day to look like, and then you execute. And part of that might be just saying something nice to the teacher, like, hey, look, thanks a lot for all that you do for us. I thought that lesson was great today. I really appreciate the fact that you said this. I thought that was really interesting. Or, hey, could you tell me where I could learn more about this one thing that you mentioned that I thought was kind of dope? Like saying things like that to teachers, you're talking about a job that is like so unbelievably thankless, especially because you deal with young people and they just don't know. I just don't think it's like they're pre-programmed to like not really like school. So I don't get like, actually I do get a lot of compliments. So I don't want to say I don't want to be like sell myself short. But I just think I know if I can see in a kid that they're enjoying something, or if they go, yo, Reynolds, your class is the best. Like that really makes me want to come in and give it my all even more. And I don't think I need that, but damn it feels good to know that like someone really likes what you're doing. And I think the other thing you could do is, I think, and I've talked about this a lot recently, email some of your teachers. Like even if you don't know who they are yet, once you get your schedule, just shooting them an email saying like, hey, look, I'm looking forward to school this year, but like, these are ways that I learn. These are ways that I grow. This is ways that like.
I think that's also a really good tip if you have a young child, an elementary age child, like elementary school, and they have. As
a parent?
Well, and they have like learning differences.
Great work.
I'm on a Facebook group for dyslexic parents and whatnot. And so one of them were saying that they actually like. No,
parents with dyslexic kids, not dyslexic
yes.
parents.
I mean, they both. It's hereditary, so so they write a letter to the teacher, and they said that it gets a really good response, and every teacher really loves it. And they actually wish all kids would kind of do that, or parents would do that for them. So
I love that at back to school night, like when parents come up and they're like, look, this is how my son is, or the biggest thing I get every year is, you have to know my son hates reading. Awesome. Bring it. I hated reading when I was in high school also. So we have that. And
most kids.
Kim Tran. Oh, I had 2 students with the last name Tran. So does your school have career fairs? So we do. That's a great question. We do this really awesome thing, I think, called Career Day, where they bring in different people to talk about different stuff, right? So we might have like the editor-in-chief of like Philadelphia Magazine, or someone from a local newspaper, or radio station, or small business owners, people that are doing interesting stuff, to just come in and talk about what they're doing online, or what they're doing in their career, how they got there, tell a little bit of their story. And they try to get this really wide-ranging group of folks, and it's fascinating. I just spit. Every year, I also try to have speakers come into my classroom and speak to my students throughout the year. One of the things that I think really important, looks like you, or that you can see yourself in, right? Doesn't mean that they have to be exactly the same race or sex or something like that, but someone that looks like you, or you can see yourself in being what you want to be, or exhibiting traits you want to exhibit. There's real power in that. And so last year I made this really conscious effort to have folks come in and share with my students like what they do. Everyone from DJs to comic book artists to like small business owners, and to speak with my kids and talk to them about what they do and what their story was, and how the kids could do something like that also. And this year I'm hoping to do that as well, but I'm hoping to have more women. I had very few, I think I had like 1 woman come in and speak last year. And so I have like there's a push to do that this year also. Was this a question?
Yes.
Lizzie Blair Finley. That is a great name. That sounds like a name from a book. Can you talk more about how you teach vocabulary? I will say
Someone else asked the same.
That is my weakest area. And I think because
you need a pretty vocab board.
I do. I have this blank bulletin board in the front of my room.
That's what we're going to work on this
Vocabulary's been weak because I've had in the last 3 years, I've had something like 6 co-teachers. Some of those have lasted a few days, some of them a few months, some of them a year. And that has always been their assignment to start the year with. And it's just been mostly a struggle, for someone to figure that out. I did teach with this woman, Leo, a few years ago, and she had a really great way of doing it, but I was too busy managing the class while she was teaching the content. But largely, I find that fewer words are better than more words, right? So I think teachers overcomplicate things for themselves all the time. Maybe this is the bigger conversation. I think then learning how to use those words, actually internalizing them, helps. So if I have 5 words a week and I have the kids get the words on Monday, there's a test on Friday, and then the next week you have 10 words. You have the 5 old words and the 5 new words. And that test goes on and on.
Wait, so the 3rd week you have
15 words. And then
for the whole school year? What the how do you
No. That it goes up to about 20 and then
you reset?
And then I reset, yeah.
Okay.
So because I figure by then we're on the move. The boy is creeping behind us. So that is part of how I do it. And I really want the kids to know how to use the word. So I have them use it when they write their journals, or I have them use words when we're writing answers in class, or I use the words a lot. And so that's part of what I do. But that is actually one of the things I've been thinking about the most this summer is a better vocab
system
plan, because it's not very good. Someone's blowing a whistle outside of our house, which is weird. It's this weird guy that rides his bike around town. Everyone calls him Google.
They do.
Yeah, so I'm sorry I don't have a really good answer for that. I'm trying to think if anybody does have a good answer.
Help them out in the comments section.
For that. Yeah. Niz Art is saying, I don't know why I said it like that. It was confusing because it wasn't. Do you have any experience with project-based learning or something similar? What are some of your most favorite successful lessons? So I think off the top of my head, I love project-based learning. I love anything that studies show that boys in particular, and since I teach all boys, that's where a lot of my learning goes. Boys learn better when they're up and about and working and moving things. And so I don't want to completely stereotype boys like that, because I think everyone's different. But in my experience, hey, there goes a kid, no shirt on.
It's summer.
And a savage tan. I have done things in the beginning of the year, my Life Odyssey project, I just think is awesome. Where I talk to the kids about between birth and now, what are the 10 events at least that have created the person that you are now? What things have you gone through? Have you dealt with? Have you overcome? Have you not overcome that have created the person you are now? And that project is awesome. It has the kids thinking back about their lives, connecting it with the Odyssey, because we're talking about all the events that made Odysseus who he was by the end of the book. I learn a lot about the kids. The kids learn a lot about me because I do the project also. And then last year, one of the things I thought was fun was also, instead of just doing character description, I started having the students make the characters out of different stuff. So they might draw, they might make characters out of clay. So when we did, I did a whole video about this where we did Lord of the Flies, and they had to make 2 characters from Lord of the Flies, but Piggy had to look like Piggy. He had to have the glasses. He had to have, some kids made him with an inhaler. Some kids made the Beast. Some kids made Ralph, and they had Ralph with his fair hair, and he was more built. They would make Jack with all the stuff, kind of the things that he adorns himself with during the book, so they can change his what he looks like. So that was really a really fun way. And it wasn't difficult. I just went to the art department. I said, hey, can I get a little bit of clay? They gave me this giant bag of clay. And that's what I made. And then we fired all of them. And then some of the kids painted them. And so I think just doing stuff like that, having kids write on your windows with window markers, having kids do wacky stuff. Yo, Peace Love Parker, what's up, buddy? Just kind of thinking outside of the box for even just little parts of class. It doesn't have to be the whole class. And I think that's where people go wrong, is they think a project has to be a week long, has to be super big, has to be cumulative, has to be take up the whole class, and it can just be like 10 minutes. Like, yo, here's some what are those things called? Pipe cleaners or popsicle sticks. Or we did like a real quick 1 day Auschwitz blueprint where it's like, we read night. I want you to have an idea of like what the concentration camp looks like. So you're going to look it up online or however, and then you're going to read things from the book, and you're going to figure out like, okay, Ellie was brought in here. This is where they went next. And then you can kind of map the story out. That just worked really well. And it didn't take a ton of time to do it.
I think kids would rather have more little intervals of things than a big giant like project. I think that works better for kids.
It's just less overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it gives you little.
Well, and it holds their attention better, because I think just look at like nowadays where like kids' attentions is constantly changing and evolving so fast. I think that why wouldn't, I just think it works better.
Well, you know what, the other thing is like
an intelligent explanation.
Kids don't necessarily like working together. They don't like group work in most kids. It's awkward, especially in ninth grade. They don't know anybody. But to give them like little bits of that, it's like rigging it so you can win. Yeah. It's like when we go to the gym and I always go, you're like, that's it, we're leaving? Yeah, I don't do a lot because I'd rather build momentum and go back every day instead of just like killing myself every day. And then I can't walk up the steps the next day.
I kill myself and never go back. Yeah.
Well, now that we go together, I make you leave on time. So Senior S is asking, what's one of the biggest goals for the upcoming school year? What's one of the biggest school years? Last year,
not have it suck.
Last year I made a video, and I've talked about this at length. So here's a little bit different take. I'm not talking about exactly the same thing again. I put a lot of kind of all my eggs in one basket, right? I had this idea of what my year was going to be. And when that didn't work, I was literally crushed. Like I was depressed last year because it did not work out. This year I'm going in with no expectations. And I mean that in the best possible way, because then it can only be an upside. And I'm going in wanting to build relationships with other teachers on a deeper and more meaningful level than I ever have before. And what I think that does is it creates a culture in which working in that sort of culture and that sort of climate is enjoyable. Like you show up to work every day and you see people and they're talking and they're hanging out, and like that is super fun. That is exciting to show up to every day. Like you're seeing your friends, you're seeing people you want to be around. And we have a bad day of someone to go to. And then I want to take more trips. So my trip abroad got shot down this year from administration, but I want to do more trips, and I want to have more people come in, because I think what does be in your classroom of folks, like you don't know what's going to happen from week to week. Like Reynolds' class is a mystery, and there's like, might be someone coming in to talk, might be someone, a fun trip or an activity, and I love that idea of like, you just don't know what's next. That is super fun to me, and I love that. We're almost at an hour here, dude. Israel Garcia is asking, trying to pick up, I'm looking at that one, and Instagram is going to kick us off in a minute, but we'll keep going on YouTube. Israel Garcia is saying, trying to pick up Can't you just go back? Pick up an interesting book. What is one of your book recommendations, not school related, just a good fiction book? Good fiction book that I've read. Oh man, You Shall Know Our Velocity is one of the best books ever. And then what's another? I'm trying to think of like another good. What do I have laying around? Fiction book. Do This. Who was that? Israel Garcia, if you email me at realrapwiththe.Reynolds, it has the in it, realrapwiththe.Reynolds@gmail.com. Email me, remind me that you're on the live feed, and I'm going to send you a book that I think you should just read. That's how we're going to handle that. Amanda Teaches is saying, teaching ASB/learning next year. Asked the boys what activities they wanted. They said skateboarding and sleeping. Can't do skateboarding, liability. More tips for school functions for at-risk boys. So man, that's a great question.
Why does that just end?
I don't know. They hate us.
Share. Yeah.
There it is. Now we don't have to look at two places at one time though.
Yeah.
So I think, right, so I've gotten the same answer from my students as well, where it's like, and I kind of wish I could help out with that, right? But what maybe you can do is something like, I'm trying to think of something cool. I would do, here's what I would do. I would go on Instagram and I would look up folks in your area, which you can figure out if watch Gary Vee, he'll tell you how to like look up like your specific area. Hashtag skateboarding, whatever it is. Maybe have someone, maybe there's like a semi-professional skateboarder, or if there's a skateboarding shop or like a BMX shop in your neighborhood that like some small business owner owns that. And they could come in and talk to your kids about how to take this passion for skateboarding and how they developed it into a business. Or I'm just thinking of things that pop out are like when you go to Vans and they try and make you buy one of those totes all the time. They're like, hey, do you want kids with autism learn how to skateboard? Bro, what am I going to do? Say no to that? Like, maybe you find someone that's in that industry that's teaching kids how to skateboard that have special needs or something along those lines, and having them come in and talk with your class, right? So you're meeting that need on a level, but it's like just the way that you can do it. Last year I reached out to I'm going to call my friend now, Mac Primo. Mac Primo makes these skateboards. It's called a bucket board. And so it's a skateboard, right? And then it's made out of a 5-gallon bucket. I haven't done anything with this one yet, but it's made out of like those buckets that you get spackle in and stuff. And he made a whole thing out of this. Maybe you can watch the video. It's online. Just look up bucket boards. And it's a really great video. His editing is on point. He talks about where he came up with the idea and maybe turn that into a lesson. I think the other thing that I would do is like try to bring in folks that are interesting or do stuff that's interesting and then poll the students afterwards. Did you like this? Well, what else could we do along these lines? So what you're doing is you are creating the inspiration for your students, because when they think of school, they're thinking of it in one particular way. But if you can start taking a cool trip, having someone come in, do a cool activity, that's not something that they said they want to do, but then it goes, they start thinking like, oh yeah, that's actually a good idea. Like we should, like, what about if we did that? Like if we went to that one class trip, why couldn't we do this other thing too? Or I just think that you're building the buzz that lights their fire, and then they start thinking of cool stuff too. And don't be thrown off when not everybody likes something. They're not all gonna like it, right? You're gonna have some kids that like the front is so hard that they're just not gonna even let you know that they kind of sort of maybe a little bit like your class. So don't be pushed off by that either. What you're looking for is the tipping point. You're looking for the majority of the class to know that you're winning. Tracy Pinter, my girl, is saying, just curious, have you seen the new Mr. Rogers documentary? How do you think this generation, the first to grow up without Mr. Rogers, is affected socially, emotionally, and educationally? So I did watch it. I am a very long time Mr. Rogers fan, and I love that Mr. Rogers is like getting back into the spotlight again. I cried probably 5 times, or like ran out of napkins during that. It was so moving. I think it's not so much the lack of Mr. Rogers, because Mr. Rogers like affected a lot of people. It's what are they all doing with what they learned, right? And then who's the next person or the next people that are going to show up and do something with that? And so I talk about Mr. Rogers a lot. I reference him a lot, quote him a lot, just because I think he's like such an amazing, amazing person. And so I'm glad that like somebody found interest, someone with some influence that was able to get this out to the masses, I think is really fascinating. And so apparently you're doing a new movie with Tom Hanks is going to play Mr. Rogers also. So I'm interested to see how that goes down as well.
Did you answer the part where it says, what do you think about the generation that grows up without Mr. Rogers is affected socially, emotionally, and educationally?
Well, you know,
I think it's not talked about enough. I think there's so
Good,
much
girl.
importance that's placed on like the curriculum and reading and writing and math and all this stuff, even from kindergarten. When our kids started school and they started like preschool and kindergarten, I was appalled at the importance that is put just on ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and not enough sharing, caring, and
social emotional learning.
A communication between the kids. Like there's just none of that. And I think that that's really damaging. And I think that that's part of what's wrong with, I think it's part of what's wrong with a lot of people and things. And it's that care and that sort of like knowing yourself and knowing how you work and how to communicate, that's not just like innately in us. We have to learn those. Those are skills to be learned and to teach kids. And I don't know if it's being taught at home. I feel
a lot of teachers
like Diary of a Mad Black Teacher always talks about this, because she's always says like, I can't be the parent also, like, and the teacher. And unfortunately, I do kind of think that that's a bit of your responsibility now as an educator.
My take on her though is that she sees the need. It's just overwhelming. And she talks about how she does it, right? She's like trying to love the kids.
Yeah, but it's overwhelming because I think
it is overwhelming.
The responsibility has now shifted, it seems like, from parents to teachers.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
And not all teachers even feel prepared to talk about that because they have not been taught how to do that in college either. And so then what do we do with that? And I think we rally around one another. We, as the teaching community, just make the decision that it's going to be important. That if it's not in your curriculum or you're not supposed to talk about it, you make it a point anyway, because it's for the kids. And then you as a teaching community in your school figure out ways that you can do that. How can we teach kindness and empathy and care? How can we teach kids to do what with, as Mr. Rogers says, what do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad, you could bite. Like, what do you do with those kids so that they're not just losing their shit in class or throwing things or yelling at one another?
And the hard thing is it
else?
Takes a lot of time.
It does.
And I'll say that even like as a parent, it's like, good gosh, like we spend an exuberant amount of time on that.
But when people tell us that our kids are good, I don't just go, I just think in the back of my head, like, damn right is what I think. Because we made the decision, right? To like, I mean, this is like self-gratifying, but whatever. You know, when your kids are little, you can raise your kids from the couch and be like, get in here, don't do that, stop doing that, get over here. Or, you know, but the more higher, the better is to get up off your ass to go handle the situation, right? That if your kid doesn't want, if you have them in timeout and they keep getting up, they just keep putting them in timeout over and over and over again. Not in a mad way, not in freaking out mode, but like it's keeping your cool and constantly like, I think Terry Crews said this recently where it was like, if you ask your kids what discipline is, right? Most kids think that that means punishment. It means getting smacked. It means getting sent to your room or whatever. Discipline actually means training. And so what you're doing is you're training your children. You're training your students how to deal with certain situations. We don't take enough time for that in schools. And I think that is the downfall.
It's hard, and but I get that it's hard for teachers,
for sure.
Especially some that have like major like you have a lot of flexibility, and I see like at our own kids' school, like there's not a lot of flexibility. There's none. And so I can imagine how difficult that is for
But that's
teachers.
where it takes a creative piece to start figuring out, even in my set scripted curriculum, how can I infuse this with some things? How can I teach? How can
I think it's even more important to do that when you're in that scenario.
Yeah, because how can you be the example of what that is? How do you work that in? And I just think you just figure it out and do that with other teachers, because maybe that's not innately who you are, but like working with other teachers, you can figure out like what like somebody else might have some ideas that inspire you, and you.
Or
can
I
work
think that
together.
just you need to work as a community of like your grade level team. Like if you could all get on that, like all.
Yeah, and
You know
that's
what
what
I'm
we
saying?
do at
And
our
then,
school, and
like,
it works
rally
out
around.
great. And it's not everyone. Not everyone's jam is to do that. Like, but the majority of our 9th grade team has always been a group that has deeply cared about the children. And some people just don't do that, like, inner work, like that. It's icky to them, and that's okay. If it's not your jam, I get it. I don't think it's a good move. Like, I think you should get over that stuff. But like, we'll carry the torch. Like, you're just not one of the people that's going to be able to get down with that.
Wait, I just want to say that we're never going to be able to get through all these questions. It would be a 2-hour live feed. So I
also talk too long.
Well, and you put me on here, and so I talk extra too.
No, I'm just on. All right, do you want to do the last one?
Yeah, make
Okay.
this the last one.
So Indy Kitty is saying, I saw second, and I want to give away a book real quick, even though there's.
Oh, I didn't take it.
So let's do that. I have an idea. I saw a 2nd grade report card of mine. LOL, very smart, but doesn't pay attention. ADHD, anyone?
Oh, I thought that was a question.
Oh,
Is that a
so
question?
let's talk about this. Let's talk about this real quick. Let's talk about the fact that daydreaming is awesome, and kids should have room to daydream. Let's talk about the fact that like not all students are the same, and ADHD kids, they just need a little bit more room to be able to pay attention, or someone to like help them navigate through those feelings, because not everyone wants their kids on medication. And some kids need to know that, like, I had a student last year, and this doesn't put anyone out there. Like, I don't feel like I'm giving away anything. No one knows what I'm talking about. Student that did not feel good on the medication that he was on. And he had no idea that there were other medications out there that
he just wasn't telling his parent.
He wasn't communicating.
He wasn't saying that, like.
So he wouldn't take the medicine because he didn't like the way that it felt. And so
I
he came
thought
to
he
me.
was taking it and he was like sleeping in class and all that.
No. That was a different scenario. But like this year, one of my things is like to have like manipulatives in my class for things for kids to do to like that are feeling like they can't just be caged in for 50 minutes because it's too much. Here's the thing: school's never going to be perfect, right? And it's like people can talk about how school used to be the greatest, like Billy Joel says, the good old days weren't always good. But we can figure out ways together, especially on platforms like this, to make the best out of it and to make it something that's as great as it could possibly be and not get so stuck on perfection all the time. So here's what I want to do. I want to give away my friend Randy's book as the beginning of the school year is coming up, called When the Shot Drops. You can find it on Amazon. And so all I want you to do is just leave a comment below. I'm not going to make you jump through hoops for this and stuff like that. Leave a comment below letting me know that you would like the book. And I'm going to have Brody and Marley pick somebody out that I can send that book off to. So then you don't
there's an automated, like there's an app to do that or something like that.
Yeah, but I don't even know how to do that. And isn't it a little bit, it's like too much when folks are like, I want you to go on and like my Facebook page and then like 4 pictures on my Instagram account. And then I want you to go, it's like, dude, just leave a comment. And I would love, because I just want to give you a book. And I think that this book is great. And I love my friend Randy and I want to support him. So I'll hand it out.
And real fast, do that.
Oh, really? You always add another one.
I know.
But it is my buddy, Mr. Matera. Hey, could you give a quick shout out to hivesummit.org, a free digital conference starting August 1st, free
And
powerful PD.
So
So
anybody's
hivesummit.org, I don't even know what that is, but I like Mr. Matera. He wrote a really great book.
He's a trusted source.
He's a trusted source. And so go check that out if you're looking for like free PDs, because PDs are a lot of money all the time. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, buddy. Hey, we did it. We did our first live feed together.
I just sat here and looked at the phone. I'm going back to the
We like
side
high
next
fiving
time.
a lot, don't we? I feel like we high five a lot at the gym. There's.
Did you end it?